Ooh, love it.
Yeah, and specifically, we're going to be looking at this blog post called Seven. Yeah, and she even quotes Robin Sharma. She says, "Own your morning, elevate your life."
Ooh, I like that.
Right. It's the good one. Um, but is that just motivational fluff?
Yeah, is there any science behind this?
Yeah, exactly. What do you think? Is there something more to it?
Well, there's actually quite a bit of research that shows that having routines, especially in the morning, can really affect your whole day.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like, think about it. When you first wake up, that's when your willpower is usually the strongest, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So it's a good time to get those important things done before you hit, they call decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue. Oh, yeah, we hear that term all the time, but maybe we haven't really broken it down. What does that mean exactly?
Sure. So imagine your brain has like a limited amount of energy for making decisions each day, and every little choice you make, what to wear, what to eat, whether to answer that email, it all uses up that energy.
Mm.
So routines help by taking away some of those decisions so you can save your brain power for the things that really matter.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like, I don't know, like picking out your clothes the night before so you don't have to stand in your closet for like 20 minutes every morning trying to figure out what to wear.
Exactly.
Yeah, it reminds me of something I read in Dr. Benjamin Spall's book, My Morning Routine. He talks about how routines create this positive momentum.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I actually saw this when I was training for a marathon a while back. Having that set schedule, like wake up, run, fuel up, it made each day smoother.
Right.
But it also gave me this feeling of accomplishment, and that carried over into like everything else I was doing.
Hmm. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So even a routine that's, focused on physical activity can have this big impact on your mental and emotional state.
Totally, totally. And speaking of, taking on challenges, Miss Queen Supreme's story it's pretty inspiring.
Oh, how so?
She went from having these like crazy, chaotic mornings, hitting the snooze button a million
Yeah, I know
times.
those mornings.
Oh yeah, to having this super structured 6-point routine, like waking up early, hydrating, meditation, working out, eating a healthy breakfast, planning her whole day.
Wow, that's intense.
It's intense. I mean, it sounds a little exhausting if you ask me, but it clearly works for her.
Well, yeah, and I think the point is not to, copy her routine exactly, but to see what the main idea is there.
Yeah.
And that's, being intentional. She's chosen these things specifically because they work for her goals, right?
This is true.
But, not everyone's the same. Some people need that structure and some people feel, kind of trapped by it.
Totally.
So it's really about figuring out what works for you, for your own personality and your lifestyle.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we go from like admiring somebody else's routine to actually making one that fits into our own lives?
Yeah, good question.
Well, Miss Queen Supreme, she has this 4-step process that she lays out.
Okay, what's the first step?
So first, you have to, identify your goals. Like, what are you hoping to get out of a morning routine?
Really?
More energy, more focus, time for creative projects, whatever it is, you have to figure that out first.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and this is where I think a lot of people, make a mistake. You got to start small.
Oh, starting small.
Yeah, don't try to change everything at once. Just pick 1 or 2 things that you can actually stick with.
Yeah, I think she's really right about that. If you try to do too much too soon, you're gonna burn out and get frustrated.
Exactly. It's much better to like gradually build those good habits, one at a time.
Totally. Slow and steady wins the race, right?
Exactly. And being consistent is super important, but also being flexible.
Oh yeah, flexible.
If something's not working, you got to be willing to tweak it,
Absolutely.
until you find something that really fits.
Trial and error. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. So now let's get into the specifics. Miss Queen Supreme, she talks about these 6 essential elements for a productive morning routine.
Okay, let's hear it. 6 essential elements.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see, how this all lines up with the research and what we know about, forming habits and all that good stuff.
Me too. Me too. So should we break these elements down one by one?
Yeah, let's do it. So first up, waking up early. Now, I'll be honest, when I saw 6 a.m. in her routine, I almost hit the snooze button just reading it.
I feel that.
Right. But she's definitely not alone in this whole early bird thing. So what do you think? Is waking up early really like a must-do for productivity?
Well, it's definitely popular, but it's not as simple as just, setting your alarm earlier.
Okay.
The real key is to match your wake-up time to your natural sleep cycle, they call your chronotype.
Ah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. So some people are just naturally more productive in the morning,
Right.
and others, they do their best work later in the day.
Hmm.
If you force yourself into a schedule that doesn't work with your body, it can actually make you less productive.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not so much about like the exact hour you wake up, but about getting enough sleep and working with your body's natural rhythms,
Exactly.
which the blog does emphasize getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep,
Right.
which, let's be honest, feels like a fantasy for a lot of us.
It does. It does. But, you know, not getting enough sleep is terrible for productivity.
Yeah.
Even if you manage to drag yourself out of bed early,
Yeah.
you're probably going to be, less focused. You're not going to make good decisions, and you're going to be way more stressed.
Yeah. Not a good combination.
Definitely not.
So, adequate sleep, check. What's next on Miss Queen Supreme's list?
All right. So next up is hydration. And she's got a good point here.
Okay.
Drinking a big glass of water first thing in the morning is a really good way to rehydrate after you've been slipping, and it gets your metabolism going.
I can totally relate to that. I always feel kind of sluggish until I've had that first glass of water. It's like waking up my insides.
Yeah, exactly. It's like giving your cells a nice drink after a long night,
Right, right.
and it can help boost your energy and make you think more clearly.
Okay, so we're hydrated, we're well rested. Now it's time to get moving, right?
You got it. Miss Queen Supreme recommends adding some kind of exercise to your morning routine.
Yeah, and she's not talking about just, a casual walk around the block. She's talking about really getting your heart rate up.
That's where the science comes in strong.
Oh, yeah.
We know that exercise has all these great effects on your body and your brain.
Right.
It releases those feel-good chemicals, endorphins, that make you happier and less stressed.
I love endorphins.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it also gets more blood flowing to your brain, which helps you think better, focus more, and remember things better.
And don't forget about the energy boost.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Even if I'm not really feeling like working out, afterwards I always feel so much more energized and alert. It's like someone flipped a switch.
Exactly. It's like jump-starting your day with this shot of positive energy.
I love that.
And it doesn't have to be anything super intense. Even a brisk walk, some yoga, or a quick body weight workout can make a difference.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so we've taken care of our physical health, but what about, our mental state?
Yes. Well, the next essential element is all about mindfulness. Ms. Queen Supreme suggests either meditation or journaling to start the day with a clear, focused mind.
Mindfulness, okay.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of mindfulness. It's been shown to reduce stress, help you focus better, become more self-aware, and even manage your emotions better.
Wow, that's a lot of benefits.
It is. It's like taking a few minutes to clean up your mind before you jump into all the demands of the day.
Yeah, I've tried meditation before, and I find it really helpful for quieting all those thoughts that are constantly running through my head.
Oh yeah, the mental chatter.
Yeah, it's like hitting the pause button on that never-ending to-do list.
I love that analogy.
But for people who haven't tried meditation, it can seem a little intimidating.
Yeah, it can. It definitely
Yeah.
takes time and practice.
Hmm.
But the benefits are so worth it. And there are so many resources out there now, like guided meditation apps and online courses.
Oh, cool.
And even just taking a few minutes to focus on your breath can make a difference.
That's good to know.
And journaling is another great tool for mindfulness.
Mm.
It lets you work through your thoughts and feelings, get clear about your goals, and see how you're progressing over time.
Okay, so we've nourished our mind and body. Now let's talk about fueling up for the day ahead.
Yes, fueling up,
Miss Queen Supreme is a big advocate for a healthy breakfast.
as she should be. Breakfast is called the most important meal of the day for a reason.
It is. It is.
Gives you energy after you've been fasting all night and gives your brain the nutrients it needs to function at its best.
But with our busy schedules, it's so easy to just grab a coffee and a pastry on the go.
Oh, I know, I've been there.
Right. So what are some simple, healthy breakfast options that can fuel us up without taking a ton of time?
Well, overnight oats are fantastic. You can prepare them the night before, and they're full of fiber and protein, which keeps you feeling full and satisfied.
Oh, I love overnight oats.
Me too. Smoothies are another quick and easy option. Just blend some fruit, yogurt, and spinach for a nutrient-packed breakfast on the go.
Easy and delicious.
Exactly. And if you prefer something savory, eggs are a great source of protein and can be cooked in so many ways.
So many options. Okay, last but not least, Miss Queen Supreme talks about the importance of planning your day.
Planning. Essential, but sometimes dreaded.
I have to admit, this is one I struggle with sometimes.
I get it. Planning can feel like just another thing to add to your already overflowing to-do list.
Right, right.
But trust me, it makes a huge difference. Taking even 5 or 10 minutes to prioritize your tasks, schedule appointments, and set some goals for the day can really reduce that feeling of being overwhelmed and make you feel more in control.
Yeah, it's like you're creating a roadmap for your day.
Exactly. You're not just reacting to whatever comes up, but you're proactively deciding how you want your day to go.
I like that. Being proactive.
Yes.
Okay, so we've covered all the essential elements of a morning routine, but what about those of us who just, struggle to stick to any kind of routine?
Yeah, it's a real challenge.
Life gets in the way, you lose motivation, and sometimes those good intentions they kind of disappear.
It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
But Miss Queen Supreme does offer some tips for overcoming these challenges.
Okay, so what are some of the most common roadblocks and how can we get past them?
Let's dive into that.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, building new habits is rarely easy or straightforward.
So true.
There are always going to be bumps along the way.
Definitely. All right, so what are some of those stumbling blocks and how can we navigate them successfully?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles is, not surprisingly, lack of motivation.
Oh yeah, I think we've all been there.
Right. That initial excitement fades, life gets busy, and suddenly that perfectly planned morning feels like a chore.
It's so true. And the blog, it suggests connecting to your why. That deeper reason for why you wanted a routine in the first place.
Yeah, your motivation.
Yeah. Do you think that's enough to keep you going when you're just not feeling it?
It's a good starting point, for sure.
Okay.
But motivation alone can be a little unreliable.
Yeah, it's fair.
What works better is creating a system that supports your routine,
Okay.
like almost taking the decision-making out of it.
Yeah.
For example, if your workout clothes are laid out and your breakfast is already prepped the night before, you're less likely to skip it, even if you're not feeling motivated.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like setting your future self up for success.
I like that. Setting yourself up for success. Another challenge the blog talks about is having an inconsistent sleep schedule.
Ugh, tell me about it.
Which, I mean, come on, that's a problem for so many of us. Late nights, early meetings, staying up late to watch Netflix. It all adds up.
It really does. And sleep consistency is so important, not just for how you feel in the morning, but for your overall health and how well your brain works. Think of it like this. If your sleep schedule is all over the place, it's like you're constantly traveling across time zones.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, your body never really knows when to release those sleep hormones, so it's harder to fall asleep and to wake up feeling refreshed.
So even if you can't get, like, a full 8 hours every night, going to bed and waking up around the same time each day makes a big difference.
Exactly. It's like training your internal clock.
Cool. Okay, what else? What other challenges does the blog mention?
Well, another one is that feeling of being overwhelmed. Too much to do, not enough time.
Oh, yeah, I think we can all relate to that.
Right. It's like the to-do list never ends. So the blog suggests focusing on what's truly essential in your routine and letting go of the rest.
Prioritizing, yeah.
Exactly. Trying to cram too much in will just stress you out and maybe even make you give up on the whole routine altogether.
That's a good point. It's better to have a few key things that you do consistently than a long list that you abandon after a week.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about distractions like, phones, emails, family members, even our own, like, wandering thoughts?
That's distractions, the enemy of focus.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They are. So this is where creating boundaries is really important.
Okay, boundaries.
Yeah. That might mean having a specific space where you do your morning routine, putting your phone on Do Not Disturb, or talking to your family about needing some uninterrupted time.
Right, right.
It's all about protecting that precious morning time.
Making it sacred.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about all these challenges, but what if someone tries all this and a morning routine just, it doesn't click for them? What advice would you give?
That's a great question, and it shows how important it is to experiment and really pay attention to yourself. Maybe the routine is too rigid. Maybe the activities just aren't enjoyable.
Yeah.
The key is to be honest with yourself about what's working and what's not, and then be willing to change things up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a failure to adjust your routine. It's actually a sign that you're growing.
I love that. It's about finding what gives you energy, not what feels like another obligation.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of inspiration, The blog ends with some examples of morning routines from really successful women,
Oh, yeah. Like who?
like Oprah, Ariana Huffington, Michelle Obama.
Wow, that's some impressive company.
Right.
So what did you notice about their routines? Any common threads?
One thing I noticed was that they all seem to prioritize mindfulness,
Interesting.
whether it's meditation, journaling, or just taking some quiet time for reflection.
That makes sense. When you're grounded and centered, you can handle challenges better and bounce back easier.
Exactly. Another thing they all seemed to do was incorporate movement.
Ah, yes. Exercise.
Whether it's hitting the gym, going for a run, or doing yoga, it seems like that's a key part of their routine.
Which makes total sense, right?
Yeah,
Like we talked about, exercise has a huge impact on your energy levels, your mood, even how well you think.
it does. It does. And lastly, I was really struck by how intentional they all are.
The intentional.
They've clearly designed routines that support their goals and their values.
I see.
Whether it's spending quality time with family, reading inspiring books, or just enjoying a cup of coffee in peace.
So it all comes back to making it personal.
Right.
There's no one right way to do it. The magic is in finding what truly works for you and then making it a consistent part of your life.
So as we kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive, I think the biggest takeaway is that a morning routine isn't about, being perfect or doing what you see on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's about creating a system that helps you be your best self every day.
I love that. It's about empowerment.
Exactly.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Be patient with yourself, be flexible, and most importantly, enjoy the process of figuring out what makes your mornings amazing.
Great advice. And on that note, we'll leave you to your own morning musings. Until next time, happy routine building.
Happy routine building.
All right, so we're back and ready to really dig into those 6 essential elements that Miss Queen Supreme, talks about in her blog post for creating a productive morning routine.
Yes, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Okay, so first up, we have waking up early.
The early bird gets the worm.
Right. Well, that's what they say.
Mhm.
But I'll admit, when I saw, 6 a.m. in her routine, I kind of cringed a little bit.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Not really a morning person.
I hear you.
But she's obviously not alone in this whole early bird philosophy. So
Yeah.
so what do you think? Is waking up early really like the key to being super productive?
It's definitely a popular idea, but I think it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
I don't think it's just about, setting your alarm for an earlier time.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing is to make sure your wake-up time is aligned with your natural sleep cycle.
Right. Your chronotype.
Exactly, your
Love that.
chronotype. Some people are just wired to be more productive in the morning, while others, they hit their stride later in the day.
That's true.
So if you try to force yourself into a schedule that doesn't work for your body, it can actually backfire and make you less productive.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily about the specific time, but more about, getting enough sleep and working with your body, not against it.
Exactly.
Which, speaking of sleep, the blog does emphasize aiming for 7 to 8 hours,
Right. Crucial.
which, let's be real, can feel like a luxury for a lot of people.
It definitely can.
But she's right, not getting enough sleep is a recipe for disaster when it comes to productivity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even if you manage to drag yourself out of bed early without enough sleep, you're likely to be foggy-headed.
Yeah.
Your focus is off. You can't make decisions as well. You're more stressed.
Yeah. Not a good way to start the day.
Not at all. So, yeah, adequate sleep is super important.
Adequate sleep, check. Okay, so what's next on the list?
Next up, we have hydration.
Okay, hydration.
And she's absolutely right about this one. Drinking a big glass of water first thing in the morning is a great way to rehydrate after sleeping,
Yeah.
and it can help kickstart your metabolism.
I'm a big believer in that. I always feel so much better after having that first glass of water. It's like it wakes up my whole system.
Exactly. Think of it as like giving yourselves a refreshing drink after hours of, not having anything.
Right.
It can also give you more energy and make you think more clearly.
Okay, so we're hydrated, we're well rested. Now it's time to get moving, right?
Trying to get that blood pumping.
Miss Queen Supreme recommends incorporating some form of exercise into your morning routine.
Ah, yes, exercise. Can't forget that.
And she's not messing around. She's not just talking about like a leisurely stroll.
All right, she means business.
Yeah, she's all about getting that heart rate up.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
The science is really clear on the benefits of exercise, both for your body and your mind.
Yeah, Phyllis.
So exercise releases endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that boost your mood and reduce stress.
Endorphins are my best friend.
Mine too. Plus, exercise increases blood flow to the brain, which improves your cognitive function, focus, and memory.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And of course, let's not forget the energy boost.
Oh, yeah, the energy boost. I mean, even if I'm not feeling super motivated to work out, afterwards, I always feel so much more energized and alert.
It's amazing, right?
Like magic.
Let's flip a switch.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't have to be anything crazy intense. Even a brisk walk, some yoga, or a quick body weight circuit can make a world of difference.
Yeah, that's good to know because I'm not, training for a marathon or anything.
Right, right.
Okay, so we've taken care of our bodies, but what about, taking care of our minds?
A very important piece of the
Oh.
puzzle.
Miss Queen Supreme's next essential element is all about mindfulness.
Ah, yes, mindfulness.
She recommends either meditation or journaling, as a way to start the day with a clear and focused mind.
I love both of those practices.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, mindfulness has been shown to do so much, reduce stress, improve focus, increase self-awareness, even boost emotional regulation.
It sounds like a superpower almost.
It kind of is. It's like taking a few moments to just declutter your mind before you dive into the chaos of the day.
Right, right. I've tried meditating and I find it really helpful for quieting that constant mental chatter.
Oh yeah, the monkey mind.
Yeah. It's like hitting the pause button on that endless to-do list that's always running in the background.
Exactly. It gives you a much needed break.
But I think for people who haven't tried meditation, it can seem a little intimidating.
I understand that. It can definitely seem a little mysterious or, even a little woo-woo at first.
Yeah.
But it's really not that complicated. And the benefits are definitely worth the effort. Plus, there's so many resources available now, from guided meditation apps to online courses.
Oh, cool.
Well, it's much easier to get started than it used to be.
That's good to know. And what about journaling? What's so great about that?
Well, journaling is a fantastic way to cultivate mindfulness because it allows you to really process your thoughts and emotions, get clearer about your goals, and even track your progress over time. It's a great way to check in with yourself and see how you're doing.
Okay, so we've taken care of our minds and bodies. Now let's talk about, fueling up for the day.
Fueling up essential,
Miss Queen Supreme is a big advocate for a healthy breakfast.
as she should be. I mean, breakfast is often called the most important meal of the day for a reason.
It is, it is. But I think a lot of us struggle with this one.
Oh, for sure.
It's so easy to just grab a coffee and a pastry on the way out the door.
Totally. I've been guilty of that myself.
Right. So what are some easy, healthy breakfast options that can give us energy without taking a ton of time?
Well, overnight oats are a classic for a reason.
Oh, I love overnight oats.
Me too. You can prep them the night before, and they're packed with fiber and protein to keep you feeling full and satisfied until lunchtime.
Yeah, that's key.
Smoothies are another quick and easy option. Just blend some fruit, yogurt, and spinach for a nutrient-rich breakfast on the go.
Simple and delicious.
Exactly. And if you're more of a savory breakfast person, you can't go wrong with eggs.
Oh, yeah. Eggs are great.
They're a fantastic source of protein and can be cooked in countless ways, so you'll never get bored.
So many options. All right. Last but not least, Miss Queen Supreme emphasizes the importance of planning your day.
Ah, yes, the planning stage.
I have to admit, this is one I sometimes struggle with.
It's understandable. I mean, planning can sometimes feel like just another task to add to your already overflowing to-do list.
Right, exactly. But she makes a good point about how it can really help you feel more in control.
It absolutely does. Taking even just 5 or 10 minutes to prioritize your tasks, schedule appointments, and outline your goals for the day can significantly reduce that feeling of overwhelm and make you feel much more on top of things.
It's like you're creating a roadmap for your day.
Exactly. You're not
Yeah.
just reacting to whatever comes up. You're being proactive and intentional with your time and energy.
I like that, being proactive.
So much better than feeling like you're constantly putting out fires, right?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so we've covered all the essential elements of a morning routine.
We've got the blueprint.
But, what about those of us who struggle to actually stick to a routine no matter how good our intentions are?
Yeah, that's the real challenge, isn't it?
Life happens, motivation fades, and sometimes those best laid plans they kind of fall apart.
It happens to all of us.
Hmm.
But luckily, Miss Queen Supreme does offer some advice for overcoming those challenges.
Okay, good, because I think we could all use some help with that.
Right. I mean, let's face it, building new habits is rarely easy or straightforward.
It's so true.
There are bound to be bumps along the way.
Absolutely. So what are some of the most common roadblocks? And how can we successfully navigate them?
Well, I think one of the biggest hurdles people face is simply a lack of motivation.
Yeah, motivation, the elusive beast.
Right. You start out with all this enthusiasm, but then life gets busy, other things take priority, and suddenly that perfectly planned morning routine feels like a chore.
It's so true. I've definitely been there.
And the blog, it suggests connecting to your why, that deeper reason for why you wanted a routine in the first
But
place.
remembering your motivation.
Exactly. Like, what are
Yeah.
you hoping to achieve with this routine? What are the benefits you're looking for?
Yeah.
Reminding yourself of those things can help rekindle that initial spark.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But do you think that's enough? Like, is just remembering your why enough to keep you going on those days when you're just not feeling it?
It can be helpful, but I think motivation alone can be a little fickle.
Yeah, that's fair.
What's more effective in the long run is building a system that supports the routine, almost like taking the decision-making out of it.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
So, for example, if your workout clothes are already laid out and your breakfast is prepped the night before, you're much less likely to skip those things even if you wake up feeling unmotivated.
Oh, interesting.
Like setting your future self up for success. You know,
I like that.
you're removing those obstacles in advance.
Yeah, that's smart.
Another challenge the blog talks about is inconsistent sleep schedules,
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
which, let's be real, is a problem for so many of us. Late nights, early meetings, binge watching our favorite shows.
It all throws things off.
It really does. And sleep consistency is so crucial, not just for how you feel in the morning, but for your overall health and how well your brain functions.
Wow.
It's like if your sleep schedule's all over the place, it's like you're constantly traveling across time zones.
Now, that's a good analogy.
Yeah. Your body never quite knows when to release those sleep hormones, so it becomes harder to fall asleep and to wake up feeling refreshed.
So, even if you can't always get a full 8 hours, going to bed and waking up around the same time each day is really important.
Absolutely. It's like training your internal clock to be more regular.
Okay, so consistency is key. What other challenges does the blog mention?
Well, another one is that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah, the overwhelm.
Too much to do, not enough time. I think we can all relate to that feeling.
Definitely. It's like the to-do list never ends.
It really doesn't sometimes. So the blog's advice for dealing with that is to focus on what's truly essential in your routine and let go of the rest.
Prioritizing.
Exactly. Trying to cram in too much will only lead to stress and potentially derail the whole routine.
Mm-hmm.
It's much better to have a few core elements that you do consistently than a long list that you end up abandoning after a week.
Right, quality over quantity. So we talked about motivation, sleep, overwhelm. What about distractions? Like phones, emails, family members, even our own like wandering thoughts.
Ah, distractions. The enemy of any good routine.
Yeah, they're everywhere. How do we deal with those?
Well, I think the key here is creating boundaries.
Boundaries, okay?
Yeah, that might mean designating a specific space for your morning routine, putting your phone on Do Not Disturb mode, or communicating with family members about needing some uninterrupted time.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's about protecting that sacred morning time and minimizing those potential interruptions as much as possible.
Making it a distraction-free zone.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of challenges, but what if someone tries all of this and a morning routine just doesn't seem to, click for them? What would you recommend in that situation?
That's a great question, and it really highlights the importance of being flexible and experimenting a bit.
Nope.
Maybe the structure's too rigid, or maybe the activities just aren't enjoyable for that person.
Yeah, it has to be something you actually look forward to.
Exactly. The key is to be honest with yourself about what's working and what's not, and then be willing to adjust things as needed.
So it's not a failure to change your routine.
Not at all. In fact, I think it's a sign of growth. Shows that you're paying attention to yourself and what you need.
I like that perspective. It's about finding what energizes you, not what feels like another obligation.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of finding inspiration, the blog ends with a few examples of morning routines from some really successful women,
Oh, yeah. Like who?
like Oprah, Ariana Huffington, Michelle Obama. Pretty impressive company, right?
Wow, those are some powerhouse women.
They are, they are.
So what did you notice about their routines? Any common themes?
One thing that really stood out to me was their emphasis on mindfulness,
Interesting.
whether it's through meditation, journaling, or just taking some time for quiet reflection. It seems like prioritizing their mental well-being is like a non-negotiable for them.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you consider the demands of their lives.
Yeah, right. And it actually aligns with a lot of research on peak performance.
Oh, how so?
Well, the research shows that when you're grounded and centered, you're better equipped to handle challenges and bounce back from setbacks.
That makes sense. It's like building resilience from the inside out.
Exactly. Another common thread I noticed was their commitment to movement.
Movement. Okay.
Whether it's hitting the gym, going for a run, or doing yoga, it seems like incorporating some form of physical activity is a key part of their daily routine.
Well, as we discussed earlier, exercise has such a profound impact on our energy levels,
Yeah.
mood, and even our cognitive function.
Right, right.
So it makes sense that these high-achieving women would make it a priority.
Yeah, totally. And lastly, I was struck by their intentionality.
Intentionality.
They've clearly put a lot of thought into designing routines that support their goals and values, Whether it's making time for family, reading inspiring books, or simply savoring a cup of coffee in peace, they've created routines that truly reflect what matters most to them.
It's all about personalization, right?
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to morning routines.
Definitely not.
The magic lies in figuring out what works best for you, for your individual needs and preferences, and then committing to making it a consistent part of your life.
Oh, well said.
And I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree. It's all about finding what empowers you and makes you feel your best.
Absolutely. So to all our listeners out there, happy routine building.
Cheers to amazing mornings.
Okay, so we left off talking about some of those roadblocks that can, totally derail a morning routine, even when you have the best intentions.
Right, because life doesn't always go according to plan.
Exactly. So let's dig into some more of those challenges and see if we can come up with some strategies for overcoming them.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so one of the biggest challenges, and I think this is something we can all relate to, is that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah, the overwhelm is real.
It is. It's like, you have a million things to do, not enough time, and it just feels like everything's kind of piling up on you.
It can be paralyzing.
It can. And when you're feeling that way, the last thing you want to do is add another thing to your plate, right?
Right. Even if that thing is supposed to be like a positive change.
Exactly. So what do you do when that feeling of overwhelm starts to creep in?
Well, the blog suggests focusing on what's truly essential in your routine and letting go of the rest.
Okay, so prioritizing.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what really matters, what's going to make the biggest difference in your day, and then focusing on those things first.
So you're saying it's better to have like a shorter routine with just a few key elements that you can actually stick to.
Exactly. I mean, trying to cram in too much will only lead to more stress, and that can actually backfire and make you want to give up on the whole routine altogether.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like, quality over quantity.
Absolutely. It's about being intentional with your time and energy, not just trying to check off boxes.
Right, right. Okay, so overwhelm, that's a big one. What about distractions? Like phones, emails, social media, family members, even our own, wandering thoughts.
Oh, distractions, the bane of our existence.
Seriously, they're everywhere these days.
They are, and they can really sabotage a good routine if you let them.
So how do we combat those distractions and create a more focused environment for our morning routine?
Well, I think it comes down to creating boundaries.
Okay, boundaries.
That might mean designating a specific space for your morning routine, like a quiet corner in your bedroom or a dedicated spot in your living room.
Right.
And it might mean putting your phone on Do Not Disturb mode so you're not tempted to check those notifications every 5 seconds.
Oh, that's a good one.
It can also mean communicating with your family members about needing some uninterrupted time,
Yeah, that's important too.
It's all about protecting that sacred morning time and minimizing those potential interruptions.
Making it a distraction-free zone.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of common challenges, but what if someone tries all of this, they're motivated, they're getting enough sleep, they've prioritized, they've set boundaries, but a morning routine just doesn't seem to click for them.
Yeah, that can happen.
What advice would you give in that situation?
Well, I think it's important to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to morning routines.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another, and that's totally okay.
Okay.
So if something's not working, don't be afraid to experiment and try different things until you find what feels right for you.
So it's not a failure to change your routine or tweak it.
Absolutely not. In fact, I think it's a sign of self-awareness and growth. you know? It means you're paying attention to what your body and mind need and making adjustments accordingly.
I love that. It's about finding what truly energizes you, not just following some like rigid set of rules.
Exactly. It should feel good, not like another obligation.
I like that. It should feel good.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I think this has been a really insightful deep dive into the world of morning routines.
it has.
You know, we've covered a lot of ground from the benefits to the challenges, and I think we've even come up with some actionable strategies for creating a routine that actually works, you know.
Yeah, I feel like we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so. And ultimately, you know, whether you're a diehard morning person or you struggle to get out of bed before noon.
Or somewhere in between.
Yeah, exactly. Somewhere in between. There's no right or wrong way to do this, you know. The most important thing is to find what works for you, what helps you feel your best and sets you up for a successful day.
Absolutely.
And I think if there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that starting your day with intention and purpose can make a world of difference.
It really can.
So, to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to give it a try, you know. Experiment with different routines, see what works for you, and most importantly, don't be afraid to adjust things along the way.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Well said. All right, well,